Talk about a crusher. Yes! Oh!
Are you kidding me?
And gone!
Welcome back to the Schoolyard Sports podcast. On this podcast, Lane Frank, we're now on episode 257. So 257 episodes through, and I got an action-packed episode planned for you. The NBA playoffs first round are almost finished. We just wrapped up the NFL draft. We got some major shakeups in the MLB. We got a huge scandal in college football. So let's hop into an action-packed episode 257. Let's start out episode 257, how we always do, with our headlines. And in the NBA, the Orlando Magic, the 8th seed, are up 3-1 on the number 1 seed, the Detroit Pistons. I'm not going to say I told you so, but I did. Before the playoffs, I said the Pistons would lose round 1. I said it didn't matter who it'd be to. If it'd be to the Heat from the play-in, or to the Hornets, or to the Magic, one of them was going to beat the Pistons no matter what. And the Magic, they're one game away from doing it. So I really hope I don't have to eat my words on this one, but I'm going to tell you that I was right, and the Magic are going to win this series and upset the Detroit Pistons, the most fraudulent 1 seed in a long time. Next thing in the NBA, my New York Knicks, going into tonight's game, it was 2-2. Right now, they're demolishing the Atlanta Hawks. I think the Knicks have all the pieces to make a run back to the Eastern Conference Finals or more, like last season. We're just going to have to wait and see if the Knicks can hold on to these late leads in games and just not give up early in these games. I mean, sometimes you see it like in Game 3 against the Hawks. A slow start, a great second half, and just kind of, you get put in a tough situation at the end of the game. You can't win it. In Game 2, the Knicks went out to a great lead, and they couldn't close at the end of that game. They just gave a big lead, and I think that's what's hindering the Knicks right now. I don't know if that fully falls on Mike Brown, but he certainly deserves some of the blame. The Los Angeles Lakers are up 3-1 on the Houston Rockets. I'm really happy about that. I predicted the Lakers in that series. I just think LeBron is just mixing really well with the rest of the guys right now. I know Luka is, obviously shaking up. Austin Reeves as well, but it's great to see the way LeBron has been playing. Up 3-1 on his buddy, Kevin Durant and the Houston Rockets. Are LeBron and KD friends? I think they are. The Lakers are up 3-1 anyways on the Rockets. The Thunder have swept the Phoenix Suns. I think that's a headline that none of us would have expected a few years ago. But Devin Booker's career and the Suns' trajectory have fallen off the past few years. And this is the tip of the iceberg. Have we seen Devin Booker's last game as a Phoenix Sun? I wouldn't be shocked if it is. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're moving on. What a great series that was. Flawless perfection from Oklahoma City. Minnesota Timberwolves are up 3-2 on the Denver Nuggets. By far the most entertaining first-round series. It's the third time in 4 years we've gotten this series between T-Wolves and Nuggets. It's into a budding rivalry now. With fights going on at the end of the games, it's exciting to see. 3-2. Will they close it out? Leave your answer in the comments. Now, San Antonio Spurs, they're up 3-1 on the Portland Trail Blazers, playing great at the time of this recording. They're probably going to close that out and advance to the second round. And the most impressive thing is they've done some of it without Victor Wembanyama. In the last series, Boston Celtics up 3-2, time of this recording. They're going back to Philadelphia for Game 6. That's always tricky, and anything can happen in a Game 7. So to lose that Game 5, some people might think it's nothing. It means something when you have to go on the road to force, or for the other team to force a Game 7, very possible to happen. And then even if you're back home for Game 7, anything can happen. That's my thoughts on it right there. And my thoughts the first few series in the NBA. Now in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers has still not made up his mind, but the Steelers have basically given him an ultimatum. They've offered a public contract to Aaron Rodgers, and we're just going to have to wait and see if he will take it. If not, it's going to be a competition between Will Howard, Drew Aller, maybe Mason Rudolph. I don't know the situation there, but Drew Aller and Will Howard are not options you want to have starting week 1, at least this stage in their career. So they're hoping they can get Aaron Rodgers back. A.J. Brown is on the trade block, and it seems like one team is going to land him. That's the New England Patriots. He'll probably go for a first or second round pick once that June 1st date hits. A.J. Brown kind of gets out of Philadelphia, and the Mekhi Lemon draft pick was the tip of the iceberg to that, because you're not going to have Mekhi Lemon as your wide receiver 3. He's going to be 2 for you under Devontae Smith. A.J. Brown looking like he'll be on his way out of Philadelphia, turning into a very public thing at this point. Same with Brandon Ayuk, a guy whose career was, on fire at one point. Brandon Ayuk was on the trade market for a big deal. They were rejecting first-round picks for Brandon Ayuk. I don't even think they can get a 7th-round pick for Brandon Ayuk nowadays. That's the situation we're dealing with. The former 49ers superstar wide receiver. Now in the draft, on to happier things. Fernando Mendoza and the Raiders finally got it done. Obviously, it was a long process for both of them, but it was a very easy decision at the end of the day. They waited, they got him at pick number 1. The Raiders get a franchise quarterback, something that they haven't had since Derek Carr, and the past years Derek Carr in Las Vegas, his last few years there, weren't so stellar. So for Las Vegas to get a quarterback of Fernando Mendoza's caliber, it's going to be special. Him sitting his rookie year behind Kirk Cousins is a great idea, and he'll take the reins. Very excited for the future of the former national champion quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. The Jets took David Bailey over Arvell Reese, bit of a surprising decision, but they want production over potential, and I respect that decision by the Jets taking David Bailey. Now, Cardinals taking Jeremiah Love. I really didn't love that pick at all because you don't have an offensive line. It's a luxury pick that you didn't need. You already have Tyler Algier. Give him a chance as your running back. James Conner, we don't know the future of him, but still, he's on your roster. Running back was the last position they needed. I thought you boost up your offensive line. So for the next year, when you do get that franchise quarterback, you've got a team ready for him with offensive line, receivers, and a running back like Tyler Algier, not Jeremiah Love. But hey, they pulled the trigger. We'll see how he does. I think one mistake they made with David Johnson, their former star running back, was that they just used him too much in years that they weren't that good. So I think they're going to learn from that mistake here, not utilize Jeremiah Love too much his rookie year to when the team is in prime form with a franchise quarterback in years 2, 3, and 4 of Jeremiah Love. They'll make sure that's when he hits his prime. That's when he gets the most usage out of him, because we all know a great NFL running back, a Hall of Fame NFL running back, will really only give you about 8 to 10 great years. So that's the way running backs are in the NFL. The Cardinals are certainly taking a risk here, but we trust them with this Jeremiah Love pick. A team I didn't trust with their pick was the Tennessee Titans at number 4, taking Cardinal Tate, a big reach. I think they didn't do much scouting outside of Jeremiah Love, so they said, hey, let's take another skill player, and Cardinal Tate, the best one on the board. It was a reach. Titans are no stranger to these reaches. I can remember back in the 2017 NFL draft, them taking Western Michigan wide receiver Corey Davis, number 5. Corey Davis was in the NFL for a couple of years, but was not worth the number 5 overall pick. I hope we don't say the same thing about the former number 2 wide receiver at Ohio State, not number 1, Cardinal Tate. Arvell Reese went to my New York Giants, a great slam dunk pick right there. And then outside of that, the only other impactful pick or, monstrous event of the first night was Ty Simpson going to the Los Angeles Rams. We're going to talk more about that later, but Ty Simpson, he might be the future single caller in LA behind Matthew Stafford. They certainly made that statement on Thursday night by taking him at pick number 13. Now, let's switch things over to the MLB, where we had some major shakeups. Alex Cora, the World Series champion, has been fired by the Boston Red Sox after 2 stints. We're going to talk about him a lot later. But also, Rob Thompson of the Philadelphia Phillies, who only made the World Series in 2022, not that long ago, also fired yesterday, or today, I should say, by the Philadelphia Phillies. Very interesting stuff right there. I think Alex Cora actually was offered the job to be the Phillies manager and denied it. Don Mattingly would be their new manager. So, hey, I think the Phillies just said, we've got such a great bench coach, a guy who's been wanting a job since that Dodgers thing, since that Marlins thing, and Don Mattingly. Let's give him another chance. Rob Thompson just isn't getting it done. Let's switch things up. Let's get a guy who's done it before, and that's Don Mattingly, in my opinion. The Mets obviously stink. Tonight they won, but they stink, and I think they are too cowardish to fire Carlos Mendoza. Too many guys are getting fired, and they're not willing to pull the trigger. I would on Carlos Mendoza, and I do think Alex Cora would take that Mets job if offered. The job seems too big for Carlos Mendoza, and I get it. He's not the one signing the players, but he's certainly not helping out there on the field, in my opinion. And better news in the MLB, Travis Bazzana, the former number 2 overall pick from the Cleveland Guardians in 2024, actually from Australia, I believe, grew up playing cricket, has been called up to the MLB, so congrats to him. Travis Bazzana, one of the best prospects in baseball. Another thing, Ben Rice and Aaron Judge are the first Yankees duo since Mickey Mantle and Yogi Berra to have 10 home runs this early in the season. So Aaron Judge, of course, he's going to be up there, but for a guy like Ben Rice, who we thought struggled a little bit as a Yankee last year, really picking up top form here, a great in-home pickup from the Yankees, of course. They drafted him, they've bred him through, and now he's a star in the MLB. So great to see that for the Yankees right there. Another thing that's great to see, and the last thing I'm going to talk about in the MLB, Munetaka Murakami, a guy everybody stood away from this offseason, has the most home runs in the MLB. I think you can live with a guy batting .232 if they have the most home runs in the MLB. And that's what Munetaka Murakami of the Chicago White Sox is doing. Yes, still weird to think he's a White Sox after all the hype he had at one point in his career, but it's cool to see a little parity in the MLB. A guy like Munetaka Murakami coming from Japan to Chicago. Now, the last thing in the headlines, Brennan Sorsby is in a massive gambling scandal. The Texas Tech $5 million man is a big deal here because is he going to be banned forever from the college football? We're going to talk about that next in Take of the Week. But Brent Sorsby, Texas Tech quarterback, in a world of trouble. Last thing in the headlines, only 71 players entered this year's NBA draft early. I think that's great to see. I mean, a few years ago, we were up to 300, over 300. I hope these guys do know. There are only 60 NBA draft picks. Only 30 of those guys, or even 25 of those guys, play their first year. The other ones are going to be in the G League or on a two-way contract. It is smart for these kids to stay in school, get NIL money, and stay in five-star hotels while being on top of the world when you're famous in college basketball, not when you're on the Sioux Falls, South Dakota Heat G League team. That's what I'm saying right there. That's about for the headlines. Good to see not a lot of college basketball players leaving early for the NBA. Some are, the elite ones are, but not all anymore because of NIL. And that's a good thing about NIL in college sports. That's about for the headlines this week. Stay tuned for the rest of episode 257. All right, let's get into it. The biggest scandal in college football in a long time, and certainly of the offseason, Texas Tech quarterback Brent Sorsby. This is my take of the week, and my flat-out take is that Brent Sorsby should be able to play college football this season. I know it's ridiculous. I know it sounds crazy because the world we live in with gambling, where if you bet in your own games, you seem like the biggest criminal in the world. But Brent Sorsby is a college kid. Brent Sorsby didn't play in those games. Brent Sorsby was a freshman in 2022. He's a fifth-year senior now. Maybe he's matured. Maybe he hasn't. A lot of college kids, not just Brent Sorsby, not just football players, love to place micro bets on anything. So if Brent Sorsby wants to put on a Reds game when he's at Cincinnati and put a micro bet on the first pitch being a strike or not, that's not the end of the world. Now, it's a deeper, darker issue, but it shouldn't threaten your entire eligibility. College sports are just ruthless. They are. Cincinnati, his former team, they played out last season, apparently knew about this whole scandal before of last season. But they swept under the rug because you have one of the best quarterbacks in the country and you want to have a good team. You want to have a good team. So the day they stopped suing Brent Sorsby, the day Brent Sorsby asked Cincinnati to dismiss their lawsuit and for the case to be thrown out because their lawsuit against him had nothing to do with the gambling. Their lawsuit against him was that he left for Texas Tech and he didn't give them a $1 million buyout. Fair request, but we don't see those situations work in college sports very often, so they decided to sue him. The second Brent Sorsby wanted that case dismissed, I think this story got planted. Now Texas Tech, this is where things get ruthless, they're trying to plant the story that, hey, Cincinnati knew about it the whole time, which they probably did. Brent Sorsby wasn't necessarily shaving games here, a suspension of 3 games or more. I know it sounds very light for a crime like this, where he's betting on other games that you can't do. You can't even bet in NBA or MLB or NFL when you're in college football or a college athlete, which, was something that was going to go through and didn't. For betting on his own games at Indiana is another thing, a game he didn't play in. But are we really going to rob this guy, Texas Tech, where maybe you give him up all your NIL money, who's going to maybe be the college football Aaron Rodgers of this season? That's his NFL comp. A guy who could be a first-round pick. A guy who could definitely be a big brand for the NCAA. A guy who could be a big brand for Texas Tech and one of the best players in college football. We're not going to let him play because these micro bets that in 2022 were made and you didn't catch it until now, that's one thing. That's the thing I'm focused on here. College sports are ruthless. Scandals happen. Cover-ups happen. Cincinnati covered it up. Texas Tech didn't cover it up. That's why they sent him to a gambling rehab facility. It's a tough situation for Brent Sorsby. You shouldn't be making $5 million NIL after this, in my opinion. Let him play. Make him give up the NIL. He'll make it back in the NFL. Suspend him a couple games. But to throw away his whole entire last season of college football and the rest of his eligibility to where he can't even get drafted in the regular NFL draft, he'll have to go in the supplemental NFL draft maybe next week and play in the NFL next year. That's the stage we've gotten to at this point. That's where it becomes rough. The amount of things that the NCAA can be lenient on and hard on and harsh on vary. Sometimes they're too lenient, sometimes they're too harsh. I think in this situation, what the outcome is going to be is that they're going to be too harsh on Brent Sorsby, a guy who can be the face of college football for something that was done in 2022 on his own team and something that every other college kid does, it seems like, up until now. Brent Sorsby made a mistake. He's not deserved to have his whole entire football career at Texas Tech taken away because of it. There's a lot of regulations that need to be made. I agree with that. On gambling, on NIL, on transferring, on a ton of things that are involved in this issue here with Cincinnati, Texas Tech, and NCAA. But that's where I stand on Brent Sorsby, a guy in his third school, Indiana, Cincinnati, and now Texas Tech. I don't believe he was shaving games. I don't believe that at all. And I do believe he should play college football this season. That's my take of the week. Now, top 5. This week's top 5 is the top 5 picks of this year's NFL draft. Let's hop into it. Number 5, the ultra freak athlete Taylor Green, quarterback out of Arkansas, going in the 6th round to the Cleveland Browns. The Browns didn't necessarily need a quarterback, you say, but hey, some things can happen in the NFL where you trade Dylan Gabriel before the start of the season, Deshaun Watson disappoints, and Shedeur Sanders just isn't the guy, then you have that fallback plan where it doesn't seem so out of the realm to have another quarterback in Taylor Green, a guy who I think is 6'6", 230 plus pounds, can run a super fast 40-yard dash, the fastest we've seen of quarterbacks in years, has a rocket arm, and was in a weird college system where you put him in the NFL, a Todd Monken system, maybe he can succeed. He's a project. He's a good pick in the 6th round. I love that pick. 5, Taylor Green going to the Cleveland Browns. Number 4, I love the Caleb Downs pick to the Dallas Cowboys at pick number 12. I mean, they sat back, they waited, and they got the best value at that pick, with the best value player, a guy who can really win Defensive Rookie of the Year next year and make an immediate impact. The Cowboys sometimes like to redshirt their first-round picks, so they don't let them play as much. That's not going to be the case with Caleb Downs. He's an outstanding player. He's one of the best safeties in college football last season, the year before that, and his freshman season at Alabama. 4, Caleb Downs. What a great job he's going to do in the NFL. Surefire pick, and the Cowboys nailed it. Number 3, I liked Caleb Lomu to the New England Patriots. You can never have enough tackles. This guy can move over to guard. Spencer Furneaux, his college teammate on the other side of him, well, he went pick number 9 to the Cleveland Browns. This guy had played at a very high level, same as Spencer Furneaux at Utah last season. Comes from a great program there with a great offensive line coach like Jim Harding, who's at Michigan now. And I think Caleb Lomu is going to be one of the steals of that first round, going pick 31 to the New England Patriots. If they want to slide Will Campbell inside next year, then maybe you slide Caleb Lomu on the outside, a little bit bigger and a true size for that position. So, yes, that was an impressive pick right there for the New England Patriots. Caleb Lomu, an offensive tackle, number 3 to the Patriots. Number 2, this one's going to sound a little weird, but I really like this pick. In the 3rd round, the Pittsburgh Steelers took Drew Aller. Drew Aller was a guy who last season, if he went to the NFL draft, could have been a top 10 pick. I mean, that's not an exaggeration right there. But he came back to Penn State, and he didn't play so great in a couple games. He only played 5 games and then was out for the rest of the season. His head coach got fired. He struggled with a lot of things throughout those first 5 games with those 2 losses or 3 losses to Oregon, UCLA, and then Northwestern. But for Drew Aller, he's going to be a decent NFL quarterback, I think. He's not going to win Super Bowl one day. I mean, maybe, but he's not going to make the Hall of Fame. But he could be a serviceable quarterback, especially early in Pittsburgh. Everybody wants to say that Will Howard is going to be a starting quarterback for them. I think Drew Aller is a guy who could actually be that starting quarterback on day 1 in Pittsburgh. That's why I like this pick so much. The Penn State kid goes to Pittsburgh, even though he grew up a Browns fan. Drew Aller, number 2 to the Steelers. And number 1, the best pick in the draft, was the number 1 pick in the draft. They didn't overthink it. Fernando Mendoza went number 1. Yes, he was the best player in the draft. I think 75% of NFL teams would have taken him. Even the teams with a starting quarterback at that point that they trusted would have taken Fernando Mendoza at number 1. And yes, that was the pick. So that's about it for top 5 this week. My top 5 NFL draft picks. Now, did you know, this week's Did You Know is, did you know the term March Madness was first used in Illinois high school basketball in 1939, and that's where the term originated until Brent Musburger in 1982, commenting the NCAA tournament, used the phrase March Madness. But did you know that? Leave that in the comments. That's about for Did You Know this week. It is the end of an era in Boston for Alex Cora and the Boston Red Sox. Obviously, a very tumultuous tenure for the World Series champion Alex Cora, so let's break it down. His first season in Boston, they brought him in as the Houston Astros bench coach, something you want to remember for later on in this segment, to be his first managerial job, and he won a World Series in year 1. He had great players like Mookie Betts, who won MVP, and a guy like Chris Sale, who was Cy Young top form that whole entire year, and they won that World Series rather easily, I think, in 5 games against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Then you could say the next season didn't go so well in 2019. They struggled. Mookie Betts seemed like he was on his way out, and they didn't make the playoffs, but they had a winning record at least, and Alex Cora was still a World Series champion for the Boston Red Sox. Then tragedy struck, it seems like, in 2020 when the Houston Astros cheating scandal broke. And remember when I said he was the Astros bench coach in 2017? And before that, yes, he was a part of that scandal. And apparently, the Boston Red Sox were involved with him too when he came over in that World Series year. Obviously, the Red Sox got in a lot of big trouble for sign stealing, and Alex Cora did as well, losing his job from what happened in Houston and from what happened in Boston in 2018 in the World Series run. So Alex Cora was gone from the Boston Red Sox for that 60-game 2020 season and so forth. They did terrible in that 60-game season. So then right after it, on election day, I still remember this. They did this purposefully on election day. They rehired Alex Cora so nobody would hear about it and nobody would think about it that would have a bad opinion about it, because it's bad to fire somebody for a scandal and then rehire them a year later. So if you're going to do that, do it on a day where nobody is going to care about sports. And that's what they did. 2021, things came together for them again. They were a great playoff team, and they had a top 5 draft pick where they took Marcelo Meyer because of how bad they were the year before. He's still with the Red Sox to this day. Marcelo Meyer is actually a pretty decent player for them. It was a pretty decent prospect for Boston. So that season went great for them. They won a wild card game against the New York Yankees. Then they won a playoff series, and then they went over to the ALCS, where they did end up losing that series to the Houston Astros. But still, I mean, a great season in the first season back for Alex Cora. And since then, nothing good has happened. They have yet to win a playoff series since then. I don't even know if they've made the playoffs since then. They have actually once, last year, when they lost to the Yankees in that wild card series. So for Alex Cora and the Boston Red Sox, this truly is an end of an era. From what happened to be such a great start, where you thought Alex Cora could be one of the greats as a manager, winning a World Series in 2018, to being fired on a day where your team scored 17 runs, a decision I still don't understand, to do it on that day when the team is getting momentum. But the Red Sox need change for a historic franchise. Alex Cora was filled with controversy. This won't be the last we see of him, I don't think. He still needs something to prove in the MLB after winning that title 8 years ago. But for Alex Cora and the Boston Red Sox, they're moving on for good this time. That's about for End of an Era on the Boston Red Sox and Alex Cora. So now I was thinking of my spotlight segment this week. I wanted to do on a team that I have ragged on for years, and that is the Athletics. The Athletics are notoriously known for being one of the cheapest franchises in the MLB. They have the 27th lowest payroll. They are a terrible franchise all time, it seems like. Obviously, they have Moneyball and they have a couple other things, but they don't have a rich history. And this season is kind of define that, because this season they're showing promise, they're showing poise, and they're showing potential the way they're running things. I think one of the biggest things that I'm seeing so far is just the stars that they have. I know a lot of people were really upset when Mason Miller got traded last year, but a lot of these guys are still stepping up for them, like Shea Langeliers, who's really paying off. And if you can remember correctly, he was traded for Matt Olson. So Shea Langeliers was in that Braves farm system, and they traded him for Matt Olson, a trade that seems to be paying off for both franchises right now. I know a lot of people were mad for a long time about losing Matt Olson and losing Matt Chapman with the Athletics, but now you get a guy like Shea Langeliers who's tearing things up. What about Tyler Soderstrom, another guy who was a catcher playing in the outfield now is just on fire, a really good player. The guy who got from Mason Miller, Leo DeVries, he's going to be one of the best shortstops coming up soon. How could I forget Nick Kurtz, a guy who was going to win MVP in the MLB one day, a guy who had a 4-home run game last year, a guy who won Rookie of the Year and is a very special talent. I'm very excited about him. They have the flashy outfielders like Lawrence Butler and Denzel Clark who can make stunning plays in the outfield. Those guys are always impressive to watch out there. What about a guy from the WBC, Darryl Hernandez? He had a walk-off for Puerto Rico. He's bringing that flair to the Athletics this year. And obviously, Brent Rooker is a slumping guy for them right now, but he's a start. He was their stone piece their past 2 years. He was an all-star the past few seasons. Now he's slumping. Now he's injured. But Brent Rooker, when he comes back, he could be in tip-top form for this team. That's going to be special for years to come, I think. Another guy who you kind of forgot about, and I forgot about, and I don't even know if you know who he is. JT Ginn was a pitching prospect for them for a very long time, and they traded for him for Chris Bassett back in 2022 with the New York Mets. He's paying off now in that rotation for them. He's a good player. So these old deals that they did for Matt Olson, for Chris Bassett, those guys are paying off for them now. They didn't really make that many bad trades. They really just didn't down the way. Leo DeVries is going to be a great player in exchange for Mason Miller because he didn't need a closer at that time, and a franchise shortstop sounds pretty nice to me. What about a guy like Max Muncy, a first-round pick? Not the one of the Dodgers, but a guy who's playing second base, was a first-round pick a few years ago for them, is a really solid hitter for the Athletics and defensive player. It's a special time for Athletics, if they have fans. I mean, whether they're in Sacramento, still in Oakland, or in Las Vegas, where they'll be in 2028, where everybody want to see them, and they'll certainly have fans in that great stadium in 2028. So for Mark Kotze, the Athletics manager, it is your turn, your time to ride out this ship until 2028 when you guys get to Las Vegas and you will be a premier MLB team. Bookmark it. Now it's time for me to put on my GM hat for this week to tell you that Ty Simpson to the Rams will work because history proves it. The last time we saw a pick like this done was when Aaron Rodgers was on top of the world and they drafted Jordan Love. Now, the next season, Aaron Rodgers is out there. He didn't let it bother him because he won MVP back-to-back times, but Jordan Love clearly was going to be the future in Green Bay, and he's done a great job so far, and he has a bigger contract than Aaron Rodgers now for that reason because he's been a really solid quarterback for them. And we've seen this other times too. We saw it when, Steve Young went over to San Francisco, when Joe Montana was getting a little bit older, but still at the top of his game, and it worked out there too. I think some other teams actually wish they did this kind of thing before their franchise quarterback ran away. New England Patriots struggled for a little bit without Tom Brady. Now they have Drake May. They're doing great, but they maybe wish they took somebody when Brady was still around there. What about for the Steelers? There was always rumors that the Steelers were going to take a quarterback to replace Ben Roethlisberger, or at least sit behind him for a couple of years, and they never did, at least not in the first round, and they've had to bite the bullet of that for years, getting free agents, getting, just not superstar quarterbacks that you think can be your franchise keystone down the way. The Rams are trying to get ahead of that curve. I think they've realized now that the Joe Burrow pipe dream of trading for him just isn't going to happen. They're not going to be able to trade for Joe Burrow. And why try to trade for somebody else when Matthew Stafford retires, like a Kyler Murray or like a Justin Fields or whoever it might be, when you can just get your quarterback now? You don't have to worry about it. You can have him in your building. You don't have to be with him every day. You don't have to work with him every single second to get him ready for that NFL season. He's not that top 5 pick. Maybe in 3 years, there's a crazy college football quarterback and the Rams are the number 1 pick and they can take him. Sure. But that guy can always be a bust. That guy you're going to have to get up to speed right away, and you don't know how it's going to work out. And there's going to be so much pressure on that guy and on you, Sean McVay and Les Snead. So take Ty Simpson out, which is what they did, which I was confused at first. But now you think about it, it works. You have time. There's no pressure to play him because you're going to get in trouble if you play him. He's not ready to play. He wasn't ready to play at Alabama. He took years to play at Alabama. But he's a smart quarterback, and he had a great season last year with the Crimson Tide. So eventually down the way, when Matthew Stafford does decide to step away, this will be Ty Simpson's team. And if it isn't, then maybe he waits another year. Because we all thought that it was going to be Ty Simpson's team once Bryce Young was done. And it wasn't. It was Jalen Milroe's team once Bryce Young was done. Then it became Ty Simpson's team. So if there is a bridge quarterback between Stafford and Ty Simpson, then so be it. But at least you have this guy, and you can teach him for up to 5 years until you might have to give up on him at some point and say, Ty, you're not cutting it. We're getting rid of you. But I think Ty Simpson's going to succeed in the NFL, and this was his best way to do it. Not with the Jets, not with the Steelers, not with the Cardinals, with the Los Angeles Rams, who have an MVP quarterback in Matthew Stafford. Some people are going to be mad that, they needed a receiver, and that was going to get them over the hump. I don't think so. I think you were very close to getting over that hump last year and getting to that Super Bowl. You would have won the Super Bowl if you won that Seahawks game. You were a couple plays away from winning that Seahawks game. Things happen. That's the way life goes. That's the way football goes. So they're trying to get ahead of the curve here. Not focus on what's going to happen with a guy trying to get 500 more yards for you next year like Mekhi Lemon when you're trying to get the future of your franchise and Ty Simpson. Matthew Stafford needs to understand that. Rams fans need to understand that. And this is my explaining that to you. That's about it for my GM hat this week. Why the Rams made the right decision on Ty Simpson. Now, the best for last question of the day. This week's question of the day is, who is the best team in the MLB so far? Leave your answer in the comments. That's about for question of the day this week. That's about for Schoolyard Sports, Lane Frank, episode 257. Thank you for tuning in. Follow Schoolyard Sports on Instagram at Schoolyard Sports. Follow Schoolyard Sports on X at Schoolyard Sport. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review for the best sports content in the world. Be back next week, episode 258. Stay tuned.